Welcome back. You're watching The Globe in conversation with Russian journalist and international relations commentator Rustem Safronov. He speaks to us from Moscow following a UN security meeting earlier on with the United States, telling the Council that Russia seems to be ready to launch an attack against the Ukraine anytime now, as a report suggests that Russia has threatened retaliation if the United States does not negotiate its security guarantees. So, Rustem, as I was saying, that Moscow says Washington is not negotiating legally binding security guarantees. Can you tell us a little bit more about the legal status of these guarantees? And if forced to, as you said, if an attack could happen if the Ukraine threatens its interest in Donbas, would Russia go as far as using, as Antony Blinken is saying, that Russia could go as far as using chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons against Ukrainians? How true is this?
I think that's just a fantasy of Mr. Blinken. That's too exotic to imagine that kind of provocation. I did tell you earlier, I could believe Russia could militarily interfere if Ukrainian government, with the support of Americans, try to attack self-proclaimed republics of Donbas. Otherwise, Russia wants written guarantee about United States and NATO do not put any assault installation equipment in the territory of Ukraine. So far, excuse me?
No, you can go ahead. We're listening.
Russia was able to receive only verbal statement from Mr. Biden, from President of the United States, like we're not planning to station any missiles in Ukrainian territory and any assault weapons. That's only one achievement so far, and we do not have aggressive plans towards Russia whatsoever. So that was verbally done. But you have to understand, Moscow is a little bit of suspicious because in one point, Mr. Gorbachev received assurance from Mr. Bush and Mr. Kohl in the past, like Germany will be neutral, not a neutral, but Western Germany will be integrated in NATO's military structure, but Eastern Germany after unification will be free of any weapons. But as a result, we see now American troops and NATO troops very close to Russian borders. Let's create the desire of Moscow to push it forward as possible. Would Moscow go to military actions? No, I do not believe so. It could happen only if the West would order Ukrainians to attack self-proclaimed republics. That's how I'm seeing the situation.
The Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused pro-Russian rebels of attacking a preschool in Donbas, saying that this is a provocation. The UK seems to be of the same mind. Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, in fact, calling this a false start, almost like a practice run for Russia. What do you make of these comments and claims?
Well, certain forces, of course, in the West would interested to get involved Russia into that bloody conflict with Ukraine, to put more sanctions and isolate Russia and basically made Russia outcast in the world, in the international community. So far, Mr. Putin is trying to be very skillful to avoid involvement in big military conflict, but at the same time defend Russian national interest. It is very tricky tactics when, of course, we have a different extremists in borderline between self-proclaimed republics and Ukrainian troops. Of course, they periodically shoot at each other and any provocation possible from any side. So the main task is not let it blow up and to create major war. If it's not happen, Russia wouldn't need to interfere. So that's easy the very easy solution. And West, yes. Russia achieved one thing. They made West to involve in negotiations about contemporary status of security in Europe. And that's how it goes. Mr. Putin created tension. He made the situation really hot, and West kind of had to negotiate. That's how I'm seeing the situation.
So and these are the demands that Russia has been making, that there should be a cessation of military equipment or support being sent to the Ukraine, the fact that there should be a withdrawal of U.S. forces from Eastern and Central Europe, that Russia says the U.S. needs to propose how the Ukraine will be barred from NATO. We know the United States says that is not its place. So should the U.S. not concede to these demands, what will happen? The Ukraine also is calling on for the Ukraine to comply with the ceasefire in the Minsk agreements. The Ukrainians say that this has been done. So if Russia is not satisfied, would it push the wrong buttons?
Well, Ukrainians, of course, they're not very happy about Minsk agreement because they had to sign it after military defeat from self-proclaimed republics, which achieved it with Russian help. And but it's signed and it's internationally recognized, and West encouraged that, approved that agreements. So yes, certain forces in Ukraine could create whatever provocation and get Russian military involvement. But do I believe Russia would deal militarily with the NATO if whatever all demands wouldn't be fulfilled? Of course, I do not believe in it. Russia is not in a position to threaten the West. It could make certain demands. It could operate with the neighbors, including militarily with Georgia or Ukraine, but it's not going to attack Western installation on NATO and so on as a punishment for not fulfilling the Russian desires. So it has to be compromised, and that's what Mr. Putin is trying to achieve.
All right,
to push them a little bit further, maybe not to get all, but to get something, All
right, thank you so much for speaking to us. There is Rustem Safronov, Russian journalist and international relations commentator. He speaks to us from Moscow.